We're into the month of February, which means the January transfer window is closed. And well, Joe Santon, we're going to talk about it today. First of all, how are you?
Very well. Actually quite relieved that the transfer window is closed. Nothing really happened until obviously, deadline day, and then deadline day always happens. We didn't even do our stream, Jack. I know you did yours, which I tuned into for a bit, which is great. But it was one of those days where we didn't think much was going to happen. Then we had a bit of optimism that a lot was going to happen, but then nothing happened. And at the time of recording, we just announced Willian again, which we'll talk about. But just relieved the transfer window's closed. Not a good window for us, which we'll get into. But there's still a lot of reasons to be optimistic for the rest of the season on the pitch.
Yeah, we should be in high spirits. We won our last game against Newcastle. It was a fabulous away day and a really impressive second half performance to turn the game around. We saw, obviously, Newcastle last night. They have one eye on in the FA Cup. I'm not necessarily sure, but they took Arsenal to the cleaners last night, really. And they're into a Wembley final. And we still have a chance for Wembley final or semi-final this season. We're still in the FA Cup, and that's the game this weekend. Just first of all, on that Newcastle game, just briefly, you must have been watching it on a stream, and at 1-0, the head must have been...
How could you tell?
Well, you were the St James's, I'm sure, but the head was hot at half-time from my end. I'm sure it was your end as well. Lots of crosses into the box, which basically found nobody. Couple of half chances, and then suddenly, second half, completely different performance. We scored 2 goals, took the 3 points, and you must be delighted, Joe.
Absolutely. One of our best results from this season, and I think the second half performance specifically, one of our best performances of the season. That 45 minutes was brilliant going forward and brilliant defensively. The first half was the opposite. I mean, I don't think we were terrible at the back, but the goal was really poor from Castagnier. And then Anderson was caught out, couldn't catch up. And then there should have been someone marking Murphy at the back post. There wasn't. It was a fast break. I get it, but it was really disappointing goal to concede when we've been pretty solid. And going forward, like you said, a lot of aimless crosses. I felt like I watched Iwobi try the same slow, lofted ball from that left-hand side about 20 times, and there was never anyone there. Jimenez was pretty uninvolved. And was feeding off scraps, essentially. I thought Adama was bright without having any end product, which is something that we've seen a number of times this season. But second half, he really came into his own, as did Jimenez, who was involved in everything. And, in the minutes leading up to his equaliser, I think he had 3 or 4 shots, one of which deflected just wide, one of which a header was blocked, another one header over the bar. So it was a matter of time. But to me, I've got to be honest, I was a bit pessimistic about this game going into it after United. I just didn't think the goal was going to come. I just thought it was one of those days where we wasted 45 minutes and then we just weren't clinical enough. But we really deserved that equaliser when it came. I felt like every player that was under par in the first half really turned it on at half time. Castagnier was getting a bit of stick from me in the group chat. He was great in the second half. Really good. Really had, Gordon locked up in Azkaban as if he was Bellatrix Lestrange before release or escape, I should say. He was really great. He did leave. I don't know why I said that. He did leave Isak a bit in too much space, but that's because he was covering Gordon for the one where he hit the bar. But really great second half from him. And then the winner was a wonderful free kick from Pereira, something we haven't seen enough of the season in terms of his dead balls. We didn't see enough last season, but in the first season back up when we first signed him, it was a reliable route to goal. So it was great that we've had a couple of those recently, because we obviously had the corners against Brighton and against Bournemouth. He won't get credited with the assist for the one against Brighton, but it was his delivery. Because obviously it was no own goal from Matteo Ryder. And Poacher's finish from Muniz, who's seen a few people saying, and rightly so, almost becoming a big game player. He's getting goals on the biggest stages. He's scored now at St James's, Stamford Bridge, the Etihad. There's one more that's going to meet Liverpool, Anfield. And all all of those have been off the bench as well. All of those have been within the last 15 minutes of the game. Some of them later, like against Stamford Bridge, the last 15 seconds of the game, whatever.
Yeah.
Really loved the way that we managed the game. Really loved the way we attacked. Really loved the way that we then killed the game off after we went 2-1 up. Newcastle had one chance after that, and it was Lloyd Kelly in injury time, and it went wide. It was just one of those where as soon as we got our noses in front, we never looked back, and we didn't do anything silly, which I loved. We kept it to the basics, which I felt that we didn't do at times against Man United. So that was really, really satisfying. I expected to get 3 points out of the 2 games we've just played. I expected it to be the other way around. I expected to go up to St James's Park and lose because of the form the Newcastle have been in, Bournemouth game aside, and I expected to beat Man United. So the fact they've swapped, we're on par with where I expected points-wise. It does make that United game even more frustrating in some respects because, we played a far superior team. We've beaten them with a far superior performance in the second half. But the main point we should say now, Jack, is we are, as it stands today, 1 point off European football. Simple as that. We are 1 point off European football. And that is due to being behind Villa, who are in 8th place. And, as it stands, we think that the top 8 will get some sort of Europe. We're only 4 points behind Bournemouth, who are obviously having the season of their lives, and 5 behind Newcastle, Man City, respectively. So a lot of reasons to be cheerful. You're obviously at St James's, Jack. In the second half, did you feel the momentum turn? I mean, from watching on my stream, it was a more subdued atmosphere than it obviously was in the semi-final last night. But it did feel like the Newcastle fans were starting to get frustrated just before we equalised.
Yeah, there was a really good spell of chances where Fulham just kept knocking on the door, winning corners. Bassi header over the bar, Jimenez deflected effort wide, and Milsmith Rowe with a couple of efforts as well. And it really kick-started us. And I thought that after a first half where we were creating nothing and having a lot of the ball, we were finally actually creating a lot of chances. And the equaliser came, deservedly so. It's brilliant from Rao to cut out the pass. He just forward finds a dom. It's so quick from Fulham, from front to back, from back to front, I should say. And fully deserved. And at 1-1, I felt a change in the air. I know they hit the bar, but I felt as if this is ours now. And it was just over Pereira's free kick when he had it. I just thought, I think this is actually I think we're going to score from here. And we did. And allow a little yelp from my position. It was fantastic. Fully deserved. And it's strange, just because you have a bad first half doesn't mean it's going to continue. Like, Silver must rocket up them at half time because we were so poor creating chances. And I think the most pleasing thing was, 2-1 down with a bit of time to go, 8 minutes plus 5 added minutes on, and they never really looked like scoring ever, really.
Yeah.
We saw the game well, even yesterday up on going to a back 5 makes some people very nervous. We've conceded like that before. But we were fantastic, and it shows we're growing as a team and being more mature in those situations. But I want to move the conversation on now because it's old news. As much as I'm delighted we won, I'm really excited for this game against Wigan. I've never been more excited for a game ever, but not ever, but for a while. It's not that exciting. But before that, we should discuss deadline day. This time last week we found out that we wanted 2 in. We got 1 in. One of which has been at the club before. I don't hate it. I don't love it. I find it fairly amusing. I find it all very sort of Fulham. The issue is if Castagna gets himself injured, we're in trouble. And I don't understand why the right back situation wasn't sorted at all. But apparently we tried for a couple, Soufal and Bright Asaya Samuel, who we've been linked with about 20 times over the last 2 seasons. It's a concern. Obviously, Castagna's a safe pair of hands, but he hasn't been at his sparkling best in the last few weeks. Let's just say second half against Newcastle is brilliant. So I want to give him credit. And I like Castagna. I don't have anything against him. I just fear that if something were to happen where he got a red card or a suspension or an injury, we're suddenly having to play Obi at right back and Harrison Reed at right back. It would just be makeshift Fulham, and we'd lose so much, especially Iwobi, in those attacking areas. At some point on deadline day, I was sort of just sitting there thinking, at some point we'll be linked with a right back, surely, because we need one. You just thought it would happen, but it didn't happen, Joe. We did get in Willian, who's been announced this morning. It just feels a bit, I wouldn't say comical, because I think it's a good addition. I still think Willian's got it. Class is permanent. If he plays against Wigan, I'm sure he'll do a couple of jingling cut-ins and setting up some chances and maybe even score a goal. Our next opponent's Forest. He scored a wonderful goal against Forest a couple of years ago. But it's the right back issue that's grinding my gears. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, I'm pretty annoyed about the whole window. Firstly, let's just look at the right back situation. Tete got injured against Liverpool in mid-December. Under a week after that, we heard from Silva saying he's going to be out until end of March earliest, which is the majority of the season. You know, after that, I'm just looking now, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We've got 9 games after the end of March, and that's if he comes back on the 31st, you know, which is unlikely at best. So, you know, a lot of the season's gone by that point. You've got the whole window. We've seen a few vague links. Emerson Royale sounded like one that could have potentially happened before he got injured. Regardless of what you think of the player, it's another right back, a natural right back with something to prove. We were linked to Van Eyck from Coventry a couple of times. Nothing ever seemed to really progress with that one. Got my own opinion on that one, but you know what? It's a right back. And then on deadline day, nothing. And we're hearing now that we tried for Vladimir Soufal, as you said, apparently multiple bids throughout the day, and he didn't even know until he'd come off against Chelsea at the full-time whistle.
He was playing,
he was playing. He was putting in an absolute bang average performance, but he's a right back. And Bright Asaya Samuel, yes, we've been linked since the dawn of time. It's one that I never actually think will happen, and I'm not too gutted about it. I don't think that he takes us up a level, but he's a right back, Jack. And the reason that I'm saying this over and over again is we've had a few people come back at me saying, "Oh, Joe, you know, there's not many right backs that would want to come and be third choice." Okay, if you're telling me there's not a single right back in world football right now that would like to come and prove themselves in the Premier League and say, you know what, I'm better than Castagne, or I'm better than Kenny Tete, whose contract's running at the end of the season right now and is not contracted to Fulham next season, you are lying. And there are loads of clubs that are brought in right backs this window. There are loads of available players. Let's have a bit of ambition. We're 1 point off Europe. We've got one right back. If at the time of recording, Tottenham, and I'm going to put this out there, my age value, I don't think Tottenham will get through to the Carabao Cup final. I think the Liverpool will turn it around, but they've got a 1-goal lead. If they get through, then next week alone, after the Wigan game, we are playing Saturday against Nottingham Forest. We're playing Wednesday against Tottenham in a rearranged fixture. We're playing Saturday against Crystal Palace. We're playing Tuesday against Wolves. That is crazy fixtures. We then probably have a game in the FA Cup if we get through against Wigan the following Saturday as well. So you think Castagne is playing 90 there every game? I think you're kidding yourself, or he's going to be severely tired. It's something that we'd have always rotated, and now we can't. I've seen people saying, "Oh, could Harrison Reed play there? What are we doing? What are we?" No. Harrison Reed is not even getting in the team in his normal position, let alone the position he played in briefly at Norwich about 6 years ago. Devon Tanton, who's been recalled. Why do you think he's been recalled? He's been recalled because he was injured. He's not been recalled to fill a role in this squad at all. I think it's really silly. I think it's really short-sighted. And that's me arguing against the people that are saying that we should sign a right back is short-sighted. No, not signing a right back is short-sighted, because we have got a real chance of getting into Europe here. That's before we even get onto the winger situation. Look, Willian, would I rather him on the bench than some of the current attacking options we've got, or lack of? Absolutely. But like the hilarious tweet that was going around said, we've replaced the 35-year-old Willian with a 36-year-old Willian who didn't want to stay. He didn't want to stay. He's come back because it didn't work out. It's as simple as that. Do I think he can offer us something? Yes. But we needed a winger before Wilson was injured, let alone after. So in my opinion, we needed 2. Sound like, you know, Chukwueze was one that we tried for from AC Milan. Would have been really exciting. Didn't happen. It's a shame. But maybe that should tell Tony Khan and the rest of the team, 'cause it's not just him, that we can try signing players before it gets to around 7 o'clock on deadline day evening, when you're trying to convince a player to move country permanently. Let's think about how silly that is, that you're going to try 5 hours before the deadline to make him completely uproot his life and move. I think it's going to take some convincing. That's before you can get onto the negotiations. So I'm pretty fed up by the reactions to it as well. I think a lot of people do agree with me, but I think a lot disagree and sort of back the club. And I think we are 1 point off Europe. We're playing in 2 competitions. Yes, we might go out on Saturday. I hope we don't. I don't think we will, but we might. And then we're playing in 1. But we've got half a season left, just under, and we've got a real chance of Europe. And you've got teams like Villa stockpiling Marco Asensio, Marcus Rashford. They've signed a new defender as well. Brentford have alleviated some of their issues by signing a new right wing back. That was one of their problem positions. Brighton have upgraded their striker, sent him off to West Ham. So West Ham have plugged a gap. It just feels like we are one of the only teams around that sort of group that haven't plugged a gap that needed to. And when Marco Silva's publicly coming out and saying we need 2 players in, I think that shows that he needs another one. I'm not having any of this Harrison Reed at right back fucking nonsense. I cannot believe what I'm hearing. Harrison Reed is a great squad player. He's not good enough to start for us in the league in his natural position, let alone out of position. I don't get it whatsoever. And it's not just signing a right back. Dan Cook put it very eloquently, probably more eloquently than I'm doing this little mini rant right now, that Anderson's looked far worse next to Castagna than he did with Tete. So it's not just the right back position, it's that whole defensive side of the pitch and people targeting it. And we've got a chance to do something different and we didn't do it. And I think there are options out there. Countless players that we could have signed, some of which we've named, some of which would be, from abroad, but ultimately we didn't get it done. And I'm not happy with our forward options either. It would also have been great for Godo to go out on loan. It sounded like that was agreed for Watford based on a few Watford accounts online, but just didn't get sealed because we wanted an extra body in. You imagine that was Chukwueze from AC Milan. Didn't happen. What's better for Godo's development? Was it the loan that nearly got agreed in the summer that fell through? And then, a couple of bit part appearances in the Cups. Obviously got an assist against Watford. The club nearly signed him, which was great. A couple of appearances off the bench in the Premier League, but it's not right for his development. He needed to go on loan and play some consistent minutes in the Championship. So I'm not happy with the window, Jack. I would say in short, but that wasn't very short.
Marco Silva speaks in just over 3 hours' time. I'd be fascinated to see what he says because it will be addressed, that question. I suppose it's a cup game. I'm not sure how many people will be in the room today, but you'd imagine it will be brought up.
Yeah.
Interesting to see his response. We play Wigan next. You're right. I mean, I actually, I did realise that if Spurs win tonight, then there's obviously the fixtures in between those two, between Nottingham Forest and Palace. I didn't realise the Wolves game was so quickly afterwards, and then another. You're right. That is just, that's an insane amount of minutes for one player to sort of have to play in one position in Castagna with no backup. So yeah, that's going to be an interesting sort of period to see what we do. There are a couple of free agents. Sergio Aurier was talked about, but
yeah. Well, you know what, Jack? At least he's a right back. For whatever we think about the player, it's just about the fact that we've got to do the rest of this season, and that's a lot of people probably go, oh, but someone like Calvin Bassey is going to be expected to play all of those games, which is true. But if there was any issues with fitness or injury, you've got Cuenca that can come in. It's about having that landing pad, about that safety net, and we don't have it for Castagna.
Let's get on to Wigan. I've gone of the opinion that we should go strong because we have a week, before the Nottingham Forest game. And by strong, I mean quite strong. Take this seriously. I know there's a couple of questions this morning that some people are putting below my tweet saying, do you think we're taking this FA Cup seriously? 100% we're taking it seriously. Silva spoke about a tradition of the FA Cup, memories of watching it as a kid. He absolutely adores the FA Cup. So this is a really good opportunity to get to the last 16. Let me hear your 11, and then I'll say my 11, and then we'll discuss from there.
Yeah, I had a bit of debate about this on the group chat yesterday because I agree with you that I want to go strong. But then there's also some players that I feel like they're not going to play now. When are they going to play? one of those being Stephen Bender in goal. Would not be annoyed if Leno started at all. He knows he's a superior goalkeeper, but I think Bender is the cup goalie, at least until we get further on in the competition, which feels a bit rough. But that's the role that he signed up for. I think he knew that at the time. Obviously played against Watford and didn't have much to do. And then there was that great goal. I think that left back, this is the perfect time to give Robinson a rest and just not risk him and start Sessegnon. I think that's two birds with one stone. And I think that Cuenca and Diop is a strong centre-back pairing that is strong enough without, risking potential first-choice players. Castanier's obviously got to start right back. We have no one else. The midfield is what I'm finding the hardest, to be completely honest with you, because I love to see Harrison Reed get minutes. I'd love to see Tom Kearney get minutes. I'd love to see Josh King get minutes. Pereira's could be involved. Smith Rowe could be involved from a midfield perspective. But if I'm in charge, then I'm going with Harrison Reed, with Tom Kearney, and with Smith Rowe in a 10. That's not risking Lukic and Berger, who are maybe slightly more defensive options. You've still got Harrison Reed in there, but I like that you've got Tom Kearney and you've got Smith Rowe. The front three. Look, if we've signed Willian, he's supposedly match fit, play him. Because I'm not sure if I 100% believe it, but I'd love it to be true. I'd play Willian on the left wing, and that would be great to see. On the right wing, there's a number of players that could play here. Wouldn't be annoyed to see Adama starting again. Wouldn't be annoyed to see Godo and Willian switch wings, for example. But I'm going to go with Adama, and then Moon is up top. So I feel like there's a blend there of first choice players and backups. The bench would be really strong. And there's a few players that I could have easily started, like Pereira or King. But there's, what's your team, Jeff? I found this hard, so Silva must be finding it hard as well.
Yeah, I completely understand that the Robinson rest thing, and my thinking is, I want Robinson to start, just because he's just going to offer us a lot down that left-hand side. And I feel like if we just get him involved, we can maybe nick an early goal if we're 2 goals ahead. Maybe if we get into a comfortable lead by 60 minutes, just bring him off and put Sess at left back. But I really want to stamp our authority. I don't want to dick around in this game.
Yeah,
and the Preston game was an example of sort of, if you don't start well, you could get caught out, and they scored and we had to chase the game. I don't want to be. This is no disrespect to Wigan. I'm really looking forward to the game, but in terms of where we are compared to where they are, I really want to just sort of stamp our authority, dominate the game, make it a sort of just difficult for them to get out. And I think Robinson down that left-hand side, they all know about him because he used to play for Wigan, but he would torment this back four of Wigan, and hopefully then we can put some ball in the box and find Rodrigo. So in that case, and I'm going to start Leno as well. I think that Leno, if we want to take this seriously, play our best team, or play our best players, I go Leno in goal, Castagna, Diop, Cuenca, Robinson, Reed and TC in the middle. I'd play Pereira as the 10, give him the start. It seems as if Smith Rowe is sort of the starter at the moment, and therefore I think Pereira should start this one. Adama on the right, Willian / Sessegnon on the left. I think probably Willian. I can't believe I'm saying those words. And then up top, Muniz. But then, like I say, if we're 2 goals clear at half time or something like that, I know this is not a given. It could completely go the other way. But if we are, take off Robinson, give him a rest, put on Sessegnon for the rest of the game, and then go from there. Josh King, yeah, you're right. He could start. I just don't think he will. And I think there's enough in that midfield with Reed and TC. TC can control the game. Reed is well enough in central defensive midfield to protect the back four. Yeah, I just really want to dominate this game, and I want it to be no issues, and I want to go up there and win, and just sort of come away thinking, yeah, job done, we're through. I'm not underestimating the opposition. I know, I just don't see this one being. If this was Mansfield, I'd be nervous. I think they'd pack the crowd out, and it'd be small ground, and it's nervy. But the Bricks Community Stadium with DW is like, even in the Premier League, they didn't sell out. They didn't really make an intimidating atmosphere. It's never really. Wigan have been, over the years, have been very good in the Premier League at staying up under Roberto Martinez. But I don't think that. I don't think that I'm going to turn up and go, shit, this is an intimidating atmosphere. We've got to be at our best at making things difficult for us in the crowd and on the pitch. I think it's going to be a case of there's going to be sparse, empty seats somewhere because they can't sell their ground out. And there's going to be a lot of Fulham fans making a lot of noise. And I think it's just going to be, hopefully, one-way traffic. And I know, tempt fate or whatever, but that's how I see it going. That's how I know we play. And I think that should be the way it goes. That could be the way it goes.
We're playing a worse team than we did in Watford, and the difference in class there was obvious to see, and there should be a bigger gulf this time. We just need to make sure that we don't turn it into like a boxing match, like a physical battle. We need to just get the ball on the floor. If we play football, we will outplay them, and then we just need to take our chances. And I feel like if we get that first goal, if it can be early on, then hopefully it'll be routine. We know how these things can change. Preston is a great example. They got the goal first, and the game is completely different. You're chasing it. They've packed out the box. They don't have to do anything, and they know that if they take its penalties, they've got a great chance, and they won. So yeah, I'm excited for what happens here. I'm not going, but I've had some great memories from when it was the DW over the years, the 3-3. Maybe less so the 0-0 that we spoke about, where it was just an awful game. But the 3-3 was great fun. I remember getting the train back to London with the Fulham team after the game, which was hilarious. I don't know if that'll be the case this time, but that'll be fun. But yeah, I hope we get some. I hope we get some good action, some good goals from players that need goals. I would love Smith Rowe to get a goal, for example, if he played. I know they got one against Leicester, but his confidence needs to be up there, because I felt that first 5 minutes of the second half at Newcastle was a sign of what he can do. He started running the game briefly, and he was the one driving us forward. Shots from distance, one of which was very, very close. Fairly easy save for Dubravka, but a good effort all the same. And yeah, excited for this one. In terms of prediction, I find it very hard to predict cup games. So I'm going to go with a more standard scoreline. I'm going to go with a 2-0 Fulham win, which I'd be happy with just getting through. Let's get through. We get through this. We've got one more game until we're looking at a quarter final. It's easy to start getting ahead of yourself, but we have to prioritise this competition, in my opinion.
I agree. I think we'll win. I think we'll win 3-0, and I don't really have much more to say. I just think that we'll score early, maybe in the first half, maybe another one before half time, and then a third at the end. If Godo could come on, if King could come on, and Sessegnon and players like that get some minutes under their belts, and then that will be very good. So yeah, it's a strange sort of feeling in the Fulham camp right now, Fulham fan base right now. It's like, well, there's a load of frustration, there's a load of optimism. It's all sort of mixed into one. And we'll see what Marcus says today. I think it's going to be a very interesting press conference. So I'm eager to hear what he has to say. Thank you so much for watching, Joe. Thank you so much for being here.
No, cheers, Jack. Thanks. If you're going to the game, it looks like tickets have sold quite well, so enjoy the day out. And we'll be back next week to preview what's potentially a triple header of home games if Tottenham get through. If not, it's still a double header, 2-3 p.m. Saturday home kickoffs, which is quite nice and a bit of a welcome change.
Yeah, I really hope that we don't have 3 games in that short space of time. I hope Liverpool get the job done tonight, but we'll see. It's out of our hands. So all I want is Fulham to be in the hat for the next round of the FA Cup, and we can discuss that next week. Preview Forest, and then we'll see from there. Thanks so much for watching, and come on, Fulham.